All right, guys, welcome back to Downtown Rams. As always, I'm your host, Alexis Kraft, joined here with my co-host, Jake Ellenbogen. And guys, we are coming to you live a few days after, the Los Angeles Rams beat the Denver Broncos in Los Angeles 51-14 on Christmas Day. It was an absolute beatdown of the Broncos by our Rams guys. It was so fun to witness it. And it was on Christmas Day. It was a pretty good Christmas gift. As you guys can tell, this episode is being released about 5 days after that game. I apologize for that. That is on me. I was traveling for Christmas. Then I had family in town, so my schedule's been very, very crazy. But I'm glad we can talk about the game now because it was a very fun game to watch as a Rams fan, especially with the season we're having, Jake. We got to witness pretty much, I don't want to say a perfect game, but it was the best the Rams have looked this season. And I understand, a lot of people, including myself at times were like, is this about the Rams being good? Is this about the Broncos just absolutely being a nightmare? And I think the answer could be both. I think as Rams fans, we should look at this with a lot of positivity because it was a perfect opportunity for us to kind of capitalize on some good plays and try some new things that we're going to talk about. But guys, 51 points. Jake, you will have to correct me if you know this off the top of your head, but I believe the Rams, I don't know if this is correct, the only two 50-point games that I remember watching in my lifetime were that Raiders game back in 2015 or 14 where we beat the Raiders like 51.
Yeah, it was 52-0
like
2014.
Oh, 52-0. 2014. We beat the Raiders 52-0, and then on Christmas Day this year, beating the Broncos 54-51
against the Chiefs.
Oh, you're right. Oh, how could I forget that one? Okay, so 3. But needless to say, this one was a little bit sweeter, I think, because of the season that we've been having.
Oh, yeah.
It just was like, it was a Christmas miracle, Jake. It was a Christmas miracle. It was amazing. It just was so fun to watch. So before I give my thoughts, Jake, what was your overall impression of the Rams watching this game against the Broncos?
I could not get enough of it. I mean, I didn't care if they ran that score up to 90 points, Alexis. I mean, I don't have anything personally against Denver. And like we talked about that already, but yeah, I don't like hate Denver. It's just more about like this season, like just getting all like your anger out and just taking it on one team, for this whole season. This team, should everything have gone correct and according to plan, this team would have been defending their Super Bowl championship in the playoffs. That is not to be. And to me, I think this is one of the easier seasons we've seen as far as the NFC. I mean, if you look, there's 8-7-1 teams in the playoffs right now. 2 of them. I just think that, this is exactly the type of season you sign up for when you're a bubble team. And it just hasn't gone right for the Rams. They've been in every single game going in the fourth quarter. And they haven't been able to finish games. But this game, they took a lot of the things that they struggle with. First off, running the ball, they ran it a bunch. Second, actually scoring touchdowns off turnovers instead of just settling for field goals. They did that back-to-back drives. Could not believe that. And third, generating turnovers. Let's talk about that. I mean, how long did the defense go without turning the ball over? And then all of a sudden, you get to Kobe Durant here, and you get Jalen Ramsey, and get Bobby Wagner. It was exactly, what you needed. It was an all 3 phases win, complimentary football at its finest, and exactly how Sean McVay wants to win football games, but just simply hasn't been able to this season. So, Alexis, it was perfect. It was exactly what I was hoping for. And beyond that, I really knew they were going to win. I just feel like Denver, they are as bad as the Rams, like record wise. But they don't play anybody worth a damn. And they don't beat anybody worth a damn. And
they have a quarterback who was given a massive contract before the season, which we won't get too far into. But their situation is vastly different than the Rams situation. Nothing against them, like you said, but certainly could imagine the pain. As I was watching that game, I was like, man, Broncos fans right now have to be
They're stuck
distraught.
with Wilson.
I know. Well, we'll see what happens to them. But anyway, Jake, let's talk about the touchdowns. Okay, let's start with Cam Akers, because the run game is something we have talked about all season on this show. Had our ups, had our downs. Let's be honest, mostly downs when it comes to the run game. It really took until about a couple weeks ago for Sean McVay to start running the ball. Like, if we're being honest, I mean, I think it was at least, most of the season that Rams fans were really, really wondering what was going on in the run game. A lot of, I don't want to say drama, but I guess a lot of confusion's gone on with the run game. Darrell Henderson released. Cam Akers was out for part of the season, which feels like so long ago, but it did happen. Cam Akers, Jake, I feel, and I know you feel because we've talked about it in the past 3 weeks, I'd say, has really improved. I feel like it's been like watching a different running back than what we've seen all season. It was almost like something went off in Cam Akers. And I hate to say it, but it might have been the release of Darrell Henderson. It might have been a confidence thing. Obviously, it becomes a confidence boost when you are now undoubtedly the number one running back in the room. Also, Jake, Cam Akers is getting like 99% last game, I think, or something crazy like that. Maybe 95%, because we do have Malcolm Brown now as well, him and Kyron, of the rush attempts. So he's obviously getting the majority of rush attempts, which also has to be a confidence booster. And Jake, he got 3 touchdowns against the Broncos. Part of this is, thankfully, Sean McVay has had a light bulb go off where he's like, we need to run the ball. You see it in the gameplay. I mean, in the play calling, we're running the ball more than we were. So Jake, before I get into the Kyron Williams thing, because I'm having so many people ask me about that, and you and I have talked about this as well, let's focus on Cam Akers, because I don't want to take anything away from Cam Akers' performance. I think he played very, very well. I really loved what we saw from him against Denver. What do you think happened to make this kind of almost like just a complete turnaround of Cam Akers in the run game? I mean, like I said, feels like we have a new rejuvenated Cam Akers.
I think a lot of it comes down to, that I think really the issue in the league is that a lot of these coaches are like, yeah, let's run the running back by committee. I don't know how the hell you can get in any sort of, well, you can't get in any rhythm running, the running back by committee, because you have a nice 40-yard run and it's like, oh, we have to take him out for the next couple of plays. And then another running back comes in and then another one. And then it's like you're out of your rhythm. So the thing that I think kind of gets lost on people is it's not just the idea you need to keep running because it's all a mental thing. It's also how you're reading the defense and different things that show up. Like, you can try different things when you're running, different cutbacks, different lanes, things like that. You can kind of, the way I look at it is running the football is like boxing. You're kind of feeling up your opponent, trying to see, does this work out? Does this work out? Then go for the haymaker. And I feel like, when you're not the lead back, you go in there and all you're trying to do at that point is probably house a touchdown run, because, when are you going to get your opportunity, right? So, I think with Cam Akers, I think a lot of it comes down to the fact he's been able to be in there in a feature role lately, be able to see how the defense is, leaning one way, maybe, just their tendencies, and, really build off that. And, I feel like he's been building off that. It's been helping his confidence. But I see also the burst is there, and it hasn't been. This year has been a down year for Akers up until the last 3 games. I mean, no matter how you look at it, it has been a down year for him. But, he's flashed. And one thing I'll say is, look, maybe, we were a little too hard on him, as a whole fan base. We don't know, coming off a torn Achilles. I mean, look at Marlon Mack. I mean, it took him a while to get going, and he is not the 900-yard running back that we saw the last time before he tore his Achilles. So, I think it's taken him longer than maybe some, kind of expected. And it is a mental game here. And so I think now you put the pieces together, you're getting the bulk of the workload, you have the confidence in the coaching staff. I think every carry he has, quite frankly, that doesn't involve a fumble is going to add to his count, where he's thinking, in his head, he's going to have more confidence. Like, you start to feel on top of the world when you're running the ball like that and you're not turning the ball over. So, really, to find the end zone 3 times, Alexis, he just has had an issue scoring touchdowns in his NFL career. This is a really good day for him, because I think with him more than anybody, it's been confidence. And I feel like Cam is someone where his confidence kind of wavers. You can kind of see it on the field. He doesn't feel as confident in himself as, other times. I mean, look at the Dallas Cowboys game. He's just like in that game against the Broncos. If you took that Cam and put him in the Cowboys game, he's hitting those holes that were on social media with people making fun of him, right? I mean, that's just the nature of it, is that I feel like he kind of loses faith in himself, and you can see that with the decisions he makes, running into his own guys, not trusting his blockers. I feel like this game, he finally trusts his blockers, and he felt a step ahead where, I went back and I watched the tape, and I thought Cam Akers was the best running back in, week 16. And the only one I thought was close was Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on what you're saying when it comes to confidence and reps. Obviously getting more reps, you get a rhythm, build your confidence. And that's going to lead me into the Kyren Williams thing. Because obviously, I have to bring it up. Everyone knows I love Kyren. I keep getting a lot of messages about it. A lot of people, kind of are a little confused why he's not being used more. And the answer to that, my answer is I am confused as well, Jake. And you and I have talked about it, but we're going to talk about it here as well. Listen, I think that using Kyren Williams more isn't a knock on Cam Akers. I think that there's such completely different running backs, which is why it's a little bit confusing to me why there is such a disparity in reps between the two. I understand that Cam Akers, I don't want to say it's been a make or break situation for him, but it's been really critical as we've seen for his development. He's got something had to give, right, with him. Something had to happen. He wasn't playing for a little bit. That whole situation went down. Now he's playing. Henderson's released. He's the lead guy. Totally get it. I think the Cam Akers should be dominating the amount of reps. However, I think the huge disparity of reps, and I don't have it up in front of me, Jake. I actually probably do. I've got a lot of stats from the game pulled up, but Cam Akers' rush attempts, it was... Let's see. He had 6 carries, it looks like, if I'm not mistaken, in the Denver game, if I'm looking at the right thing. And Cam had 23.
Yeah.
That's a little better than I thought, but I still felt like there were a lot of situations where I would have liked to see Kyren in the game, especially as a receiving back, because if you don't know this already, guys, Kyren was a receiving back in college. He has very good hands. He's very slippery, which is a word we use a lot with him. And part of the reason that I am a little frustrated by the usage of Kyren Williams is not just because I love him. I know that everybody thinks it's because of that, but we talk about the confidence, Jake, and the reps. And you and I have been talking about how they use him at the most sporadic times, that there's never an opportunity for him to get into a rhythm. And he's still performing. Don't get me wrong. Like we've said before on the show, when you put Kyren Williams in, he has positive yards. He's not, making any critical mistakes. He looks really, really good. But it's they put him in for a play, they take him out, they put him in later for a play, they take him out, and there's no opportunity for him to get a real rhythm. And I thought that game where we're winning by, we won that game 51-14. I thought for sure, okay, they're going to put Kyren in now for a substantial amount of time, give him the reps, give him the opportunities, give him the experiments, and they didn't. Experience. Sorry. So I am a little confused by it, which is why I wanted to bring up to you, because I just keep I don't have an answer for it. It is frustrating because I don't want it to be, as you and I've said on the show before, a situation where sometimes the Rams mismanage running back development. They pretty much historically have, if we're being honest. So I don't want that to happen to Kyren, because I do like him a lot, but I also just am genuinely curious why this is happening.
I mean, my thought process is that they have had such a hard time this year. There's multiple things, but we'll start off with the first point that I'm going to make. They've had such a hard time this year staying consistent, finding anything good in the offensive game, that I think when they found Akers running the way they did, they're just like, let's just keep getting him the ball. And then at that point, the second point comes in is that now, regardless if you're trading Akers or you're keeping him, you want to keep that guy looking good. And when he has the momentum and he has the confidence and he's looking like that, it's hard to take him out of the game. The third thing also could very well be Kyren Williams is just not a guy that they're worried about. Like, Akers is getting these carries because they're trying to figure out, like, can this guy get back to where he was? Because at one point it was looking like he's not Todd Gurley, but, you know, in the playoffs, if you have him running the way he did against New England and a couple of those playoff games, then you have something real good next year. You know, you have a legit number one running back. And then you have Kyren Williams, who he's already getting opportunities in his rookie season as a 5th round pick. So I've chosen, Alexis, to kind of take a step back and look at it in a different way. I can sit here and I can say it's disappointing. Kyren's not getting the reps. They're 5-10. Or I could say that, look, this is a guy that, you know, suffered an injury to start the season, fluke injury on special teams, who they were confident in to start a game if he had to week 1. I think it shows you that he's beyond where even we could have expected, because, you know, this is somebody, again, 5th round pick, and he's already ready to go. And I think that, you know, you find this newfound confidence in Akers. You want to ride it out with him, you know, and then look, if he ends up working out, then you got 2 solid options next year in Cam Akers and Kyren Williams. Malcolm Brown won't be back in all likelihood. You know, Ronnie Rivers, I believe, is on IR. So, you know, who knows with him? Yeah, they could draft a running back. But, you know, for those of you that are saying Zach Charbonnet and, you know, insert 2nd, 3rd round pick here, I don't think it's necessary. If you find out, like, if Akers can continue to run like this, I'm not worried about Kyren Williams, because we've already seen in a limited reps what he can do, especially as a pass protector, as a receiver. So I think those two combined can make a really nice duo. And Alexis, I almost feel like they're going to know how to manage them better because Kyren was drafted in the 5th and Hendo was drafted in the 3rd. I always felt like they had kind of a hard, they drafted Hendo in the 3rd, they traded up to get him. They got Cam in the 2nd. I feel like they always had a hard time differentiating between the two. And like, they tried to make Cam Akers the guy, but when Henderson was out, you know, carrying him, or was out rushing or whatever, then it kind of got a little muddy. But I feel like Kyren, we were talking about it a little bit, like, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Austin Eckler. And I think it gives them the opportunity to kind of allow these guys to contribute in their own roles, where Akers is just the go ahead, you know, run the ball type of guy. And then Kyren can do it all. You know, he can come in, you know, in a pinch if you need him in pass pro. He can come in as a receiver. Although I will say I love how they've been using Cam Akers in the passing game lately. I just think that they're learning things and they don't want to stop kind of researching on their own. I mean, the best way to kind of find this stuff out is to see it for yourself. And, you know, I think that's what they're doing with Cam right now, is that, you know, maybe they feel way more confident about Kyren and they're just really are like, we got to get Cam Akers going. If we can do that, great. If not, we need to know right away, does this guy have it? Does he not? Because if not, we're trading him this offseason. And that's how I see it.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good explanation, because I've been feeling like it's more so about Cam and the run game than it is about Kyren. And that's what I've been trying to tell people when they're like, oh, well, you know, what is it about Kyren? I'm like, well, if you watch the tape, I mean, you're not seeing anything negative from Kyren. You know, when he has opportunities, it's all positive yards, they're all positive plays. So it must be something else, you know, going on. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. Selfishly, I know there are other people who really want to see him play more, including myself. That's no secret. But I wouldn't worry about it because I don't think it's directly related to their feelings on Kyren. I think, as we know from training camp before he got injured, they thought very, very highly of him and wanted to use him a lot. But I just wanted to bring that up because I told people that I would because I know that it's a topic of concern. But Jake, someone else who had a bit of a
topic of concern in the last podcast. Yes.
Tyler Higbee, yes.
He heard our podcast.
He must have turned on Downtown Rams and thought, enough. I'm going to make a statement this game. And he did. He had 2 touchdowns. He looked really good, Jake. And it was almost like, again, I mentioned Cam Akers earlier being a player who the past few games, he's looked like a completely different person than the guy we've seen this season. Tyler Higbee kind of did the same thing.
Crazy.
In this game. I just thought that he looked crazy different. I mean, I just was watching and I was like, and I'm not shading him. We weren't trying to shade him the last podcast. We missed this Tyler Higbee because he started the season off this way. I think a lot of people forget that Tyler Higbee looked really, really good to start the season, but I think it was overlooked because we played really poorly to start the season. If you guys, remember, it was like Kupp and Higbee were the only 2 targets that Matthew Stafford was hitting. And Higbee looked really good. And then kind of like the majority of the season, like the middle stretch of the season, he's had a few issues, a lot of drops. It was kind of like was really strange. We just couldn't figure out what was going on. And it got to the point where we were like, is this it? Is Tyler Higbee just on a massive decline? He plays the Broncos. He gets 2 touchdowns. He looks really good. So I guess you could say jury's still out with Tyler Higbee, but I hope that he continues the season looking like that, Jake, because I was really, really happy to see him kind of, he had 94 yards, 2 touchdowns, 11 total targets. It looked like Baker kind of was getting more comfortable with Tyler Higbee. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but yes, we are going to tell ourselves that Tyler Higbee for Downtown Rams last week and decided to put a kibosh on everything going on.
He was just what the doctor ordered. And, here's the thing. Tyler Higbee is number 1 all time for tight ends in Rams receiving, touchdowns, and receptions.
He just set that record in the Broncos game, right?
All of them broke in the Broncos game.
All of them, right?
It's been pretty incredible, what he's been able to do. And, it's very rare, Alexis. I also want to point this out, that you get a guy like Tyler Higbee, 4th round pick out of Western Kentucky, 1 of 2 tight ends drafted. He has these insane expectations coming out, right? And then you see him in the preseason. And I don't know. I mean, we were not, connected yet. But my first thought was, first off, I loved Higbee in that draft. Loved him in that draft. People called him Baby Gronk, and I could see why. Then preseason comes around, and Alexis, I'm like, oh my God, this guy looks really good. And then the regular season comes in, and this rookie did not really do much, right? It was like Lance Kendricks. He didn't really get a lot going. But the reason I'm saying you rarely see it is because you rarely see a guy who comes from Jeff Fisher's. Okay, this is Jeff Fisher's regime pick. And he sticks with Sean McVay. McVay stuck by him. Okay? That's what I find really interesting here. Because normally a new coach comes in, you want your own guys, you want your own tight end. They got Gerald Everett. And guess what? He chose Higbee over Everett. Think about that. So I just think it's a very rare circumstance where you find a guy that's not Aaron Donald, that's not Todd Gurley, that's not Jared Goff. You get a guy like this that sticks around for the next regime. I don't think we talk about that little thing enough because that's kind of a big deal. But you know what else is a big deal? Getting Bryson Hopkins the damn ball. Because this was another fourth round tight end. They love drafting their tight ends in the 4th round. I don't know. But Bryson Hopkins is the guy, we were covering the draft in 2020, obviously. And you remember, I was all over Bryson Hopkins as a 2nd round talent, the best tight end in that draft. And he really hasn't been able to show that. He's had some moments, including I mean, the biggest stage of them all, the Super Bowl, coming away with some really key receptions down the stretch. But in this game, Alexis, he goes for 3 for 57. That's 19 yards per reception, caught all 3 targets with a long of 22 yards. Hopkins was getting it going. And I do think, I want to say, I think this was more about the game plan, because the Broncos do a great job normally at shutting down the wide receivers. I think they went a certain amount of games where they didn't allow a touchdown to receiver or whatever. It was nuts. So I think when you have guys, like what they have with Surtain, I think their game plan was to take Tutu Atwell and Van Jefferson out of it. And I think the Rams did a nice job of kind of, orchestrating their offense around that game plan and just making Tyler Higbee and Bryson Hopkins work out. So while it might have been partially to do with the game plan, Alexis, it was still exciting nonetheless.
I agree. And I'm glad that you brought up Bryson Hopkins, because I was really excited to see him get a little more involved, because you kind of, nowadays in this league, I feel like you really have 2 tight ends, right? On teams, you really have a tight end 1, but then you also nowadays, you have a very close tight end 2. It's becoming a league. And we've said this before, where it's you really need to have kind of 2 dominant tight ends. I don't know if that's going to be Bryson Hopkins. I know that he had a kind of a rocky start. They've been very sporadic in their use of him, but it was promising to see that they're at least attempting to get him more involved. Jake, let's talk about the defensive touchdown that we scored. The defensive touchdown was a pick six by Jacoby Durant, a rookie corner. And Jake, this was very promising and exciting, because you and I have been talking about how our secondary has shown to be not as strong maybe as we all thought it was, right? You kind of look in this season, last season, it's hard. We won a Super Bowl, but you could kind of, looking back, see towards the end of the season, maybe the secondary wasn't as strong as we all thought it was. And then it really kind of got exposed this season. You haven't really seen any consistency from anybody, including Jalen Ramsey, who's the heart of that secondary, right? So it's been worrisome. We've been talking about it, and we are okay, who are the young guys that are going to step up? Because you got guys that might leave next year. You got Taylor Rapp, right? Who's actually been playing a lot better. Maybe he's been listening to Downtown Rams too, but not as well as he might need to be retained by the Rams, which we'll talk about more in the offseason. But we've kind of been looking for the young talent. Who's going to be the next generation of this secondary, as weird as it sounds to say. Jacoby Durant has looked really, really good. Because Troy Hill has looked okay. Jalen Ramsey, I think, is looking better, but he's struggled a lot this season, but he's Jalen Ramsey, so it's kind of a different story. And then we had our 2 rookie, corners this year in Darion Kendrick and Jacoby Durant. And I feel like we've seen 2 very different stories with those guys, right? Darion Kendrick has very much struggled this season, and that's kind of been disappointing to see. I get that he's a rookie, but then you also have a rookie in Jacoby Durant who's looked very, very good. He started off the season slow. They didn't really use him much. He's progressively been used more and more as the season has gone on, and I think that he might be a gem. He looks really, really good, and I'd be remiss if I did not bring up my comments on Jacoby Durant during the draft. You and I were talking about this before the show. I'll bring it up again for people who don't know. I was not really happy when we drafted Jacoby Durant. I did make a mistake on his film during the draft stream, which is embarrassing. That was my fault. But then the next episode brought up, Jake, I actually had been messaging Jacoby Durant, trying to get him on our show, because I did actually watch his film and I did like his film. I was making I just had an error in the Downtown Rams stream of who I was thinking of. But also, that was also partially, guys, when I did that was because, remember, we traded for Troy Hill and then drafted a corner.
But you also addressed this on
10 minutes later,
the air during the draft show.
I did, but I have to bring it up because people don't. I during the game when Jacoby Durant got the interception, I got a message on Instagram, and some guy was like, haha, you were wrong. Do you remember? Bet you feel like an idiot now when you said that Jacoby. I was like, okay, literally, I wanted to go find the episode where I addressed this, but I didn't because I was going to waste my time. But I was like, I already corrected myself and I addressed it. I wanted Jacoby Durant to come on our show during draft season when we were messaging draft prospects. But also, he still has proven me wrong because I still didn't expect this. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm more than okay with admitting that anytime I'm wrong about a player. If I'm ever wrong about, if the Rams ever draft somebody that I'm not confident about, I hope they prove me wrong because I want the Rams to win. So, and
I mean, we were both right about Bobby Evans, but no one's going to be like, see, I knew you were right, Alexis.
That was do you remember that draft when, was it the day we were in New York this was the 2019 draft and they drafted Bobby Evans. And that was the day we got like LaBella's pizza. It was like the huge pizza and we were eating that and they drafted Bobby Evans. And I was like, we were distraught. Which sounds mean to say because we have been cheering for Bobby Evans. He just has not he just hasn't given us much to cheer for.
And you were like, I like Taylor Rapp. Like that's basically how you say it. You're like, I like Taylor Rapp.
I like Taylor Rapp. I was surprised that they drafted him, but I liked Taylor Rapp. I just was surprised that they drafted him. That was an interesting draft. But anyways, guys, I like Jacoby Durant. Okay. I still was wrong about him. I still didn't expect him to be this good. I'm more than happy to eat crow on that. But I was really happy to see that pick six. I actually didn't see it live. I tweeted, I was literally, my family just did not clock when they planned our family dinner that the Rams game was on. I guess I can't just expect everybody to revolve our Christmas plans around me because they had the dinner scheduled during the Rams game. So I was eating dinner and I came back. I rushed back to the TV after dinner and it had just happened. So I missed it live. I had to go back and rewatch it. But Jake, really exciting stuff that we're seeing from him. But just in general with our secondary, did anything else stand out to you? That was promising.
If you didn't know this, fun fact about Jacoby Durant, he's tied for the leader in interceptions with 3 on the team. And he actually leads the NFL in interception return yardage. The guy's barely played. He's barely started.
There you go.
And he leads the NFL in interception return yardage. So I actually thought of the idea of not this year, Alexis, because I don't want it to be out on film. But Sean, if you listen to the podcast, use Jacoby Durant on offense like the Patriots use Marcus Jones. Thank me later. Just don't do it until the playoffs when you need it. Don't put it out on film now in, a meaningless 5-10 game. But at some point, I've been saying that a lot. I tweeted out. I think you got to use that explosive ability. You got to take advantage of that. But as far as the secondary, I thought Ramsey did a really nice job on Cortland Sutton, really shut him down. I thought Bobby Wagner did a great job, not the secondary, but just defense in general. Just, man, if it's against Seattle or if it's against Russell Wilson, Bobby Wagner is going to blow up. I mean, he's just had outstanding performances against, both circumstances. How about Larrell Murchison, a guy that he's literally played 26 games going into this game, 26 games. He had never hit the quarterback in the NFL. He had 2 sacks on Sunday for the Rams. This is one of those, another team's trash is another team's treasure. And I'm actually very excited about Larrell Murchison because I had watched him up close and personal at the Senior Bowl. I saw him go through the drills, the one-on-one drills against the offensive linemen, and him and Neville Gallimore just stand out in my mind. 2 guys that really blew up that drill. So it's cool to see him. He had a great game.
Yeah.
He offers something in that rotation. I think he'll be back next year, in full force. And then Michael Hoyt, I mean, can you really say enough things about the guy? 7 pressures on the day. The Rams had 29 pressures on the quarterback, and they only gave up 1 pressure on the offensive line. This might have been the most complete win of Sean McVay's career, and that is saying a lot because they went to Seattle and they took the mantle of NFC West champions right out from under Seattle. They basically pulled the rug out from under them. They went to Seattle. It was pouring rain. Todd Gurley ran all over that defense. The defense destroyed Russell Wilson. They beat Tennessee. That was a huge game to clinch the NFC West. They've had games like beating Kansas City. They, beat, Minnesota, all of that. But I got to tell you, though, I think this was the most complete win of Sean McVay's career. It wasn't the biggest. They won the freaking Super Bowl, but it was the most complete, I think.
Right. Well, speaking of Seattle, Jake, Bobby Wagner and Russell Wilson played together in Seattle, and we saw this game. Bobby Wagner not only sack Russell Wilson, but get an interception. What a reunion, you could say, a happier reunion for Bobby than it was for Russell. But I was really happy to see that because, I know that they're friends. They're really close. They hung out after the game. They have really positive things to say about each other. But Jake, when you're playing a game against your friend, you want to win, the battle between your friends. So I know that it probably had to feel really good for Bobby to go out and get a sack and interception against Russell Wilson. It was really fun to watch. Just knowing
it's like when we played each
there.
other during COVID. You probably forgot about this, but during COVID, we played each other on the Xbox NBA 2K franchise mode.
Yeah,
but I wanted
Jake
to win because you're
me.
my friend. See, it translates. I was Bobby Wagner in this case, though, and you were sadly Russell Wilson. But
yes. I actually burned that from my memory until you brought it up just now. So I'm glad that trauma is coming back to me. That was really brutal. But anyways, Jake, let's wrap up the Broncos game and move on to another AFC West team that we're going to play, the Chargers, who, Jake, are kind of a weird team to me, to be honest, because I know that they're technically
they're actually in the playoffs. They clinched. Yeah.
Did they? They clinched it. You're right. So they did. So they're a playoff team, and that's kind of weird to me because we're now a couple weeks out from the end of the season, and I wonder if you start to sometimes see teams clinch the playoff, and I know that there's seeding issues involved, but you do kind of sometimes see I could see the Chargers taking a little bit of a step back, being let's not do anything crazy, let's not get anybody hurt, let's not sometimes you do see that. So I don't know if that's going to be the approach that the Chargers take. I kind of don't think so because it's Brandon Staley, and you talk about your friends, you talk about Brandon Staley and Sean McVay, good friends, coached together in the Rams. I don't see Brandon Staley just letting loose a little on this game. I think that he's going to take it very seriously. So this game is in LA. We are technically the away team, I believe, but it's really a home game for both teams in their home stadium. Jake, what's your brief kind of overview of what to expect?
I think the Rams are going to outplay them. I don't think the Chargers are very good. They do have a lot to play for, though, Alexis. I actually, put through the numbers. They can get to the 5th seed. They're 6th right now, but if they win out, they can get to the 5th seed with only the Ravens losing one game. If the Ravens lose both games, they still can get to the 5th seed, even if they lose out. So, or even if they win just one game. So it's one of those things where there's definitely playoff implications. Would you rather go to Cincinnati and play a team that just represent the AFC in the Super Bowl? Would you rather play against Jacksonville, who I guess you lost 38-10 to earlier in the year? I actually don't know who you would rather play. But the point still stands, though. It's for seeding, and they're obviously not going to win that. That division is already locked up for the Kansas City Chiefs, so they're going to be either 7th, 6th, or 5th, most likely 6th. But if Baltimore does lose and the Chargers win out, then they would have the 5th seed. I just think, Alexis, I went through their schedule. The Chargers, believe it or not, aren't ahead the Rams in anything DVOA. They're not. The Rams have a better run offense, run defense, passing offense, and passing defense than the Chargers do. So I don't know. I mean, I look at this team and I'm like, this is what happens when you have a 3rd place schedule. This is what happens when you don't make the playoffs. They don't really have a target on their back. I know they've dealt with injury, but nowhere near, to the point where I don't know. They should be way better than they are. And it's not a bitterness because Alexis, we've talked about this. I don't have anything against Chargers. I don't live in LA. So the battle for LA really doesn't mean anything to me. I think it really only means something to locals because if you don't live in LA, then it's just like the Chargers are just that AFC team that shares the stadium with the Rams that are kind of annoying because they, get all the Rams. But like, do you have any reason to hate the Chargers if you don't live in LA? No. Like, so it's one of those things here where I'm not like being bitter. Like, I don't have anything against them. I just don't think they're that great. And it's puzzling to me when you have Austin Eckler, you have Keenan Allen, you have Mike Williams, you have Justin Herbert, Gerald Everett, Josh Palmer. You have all these guys. And I'm just like, this offense doesn't score a lot. They don't really control games. It took them a last second effort to beat the Titans with Malik Willis. You know what I'm just saying, like, I feel like the Chargers are just not that great. And I think this is a huge opportunity for the Rams to, maybe play spoiler from them going to the 5th seed, but also in addition to that, defend their home field advantage for the locals. I mean, I still want them to win. It doesn't mean that, like, I don't care if they win. I definitely want them to win. But let's not forget where the Battle of Los Angeles came from. That was the Chargers marketing thing. And that was gone within a year because it failed miserably.
It did. And yeah, like you've kind of, the Chargers, like I said, they're kind of a confusing team because it's like they'll play and they look good. They're just very hot and cold. I am a little nervous for this Sunday because you bring up the seeding thing. Like I said, I think that's going to be a driving force. I think the Brandon Staley thing. Yeah. Right. You're right. He's back. I think the Brandon Staley thing is, the competitive thing, with him and Sean McVay. I don't see him holding back at all. I don't know. You and I, we always get into our predictions, who do we think is going to win or whatever. I know that you think the Rams are going to win. I'm not sure, guys. I'm just being honest. I'm really not sure. I'm a little worried about Justin Herbert because I could see him having a lot of success against our defense if our defense plays like how they've been playing most of the season, except for the game against the Broncos. But then at the same time, it's kind of like interesting because, again, we've kind of been like dissing the Broncos really hard. They didn't really look good last week. So it's hard for me to say, comparing the Chargers offense to the Broncos offense, I think the Chargers offense is a lot better. I think they have a better wide receiver duo with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, who honestly, if I'm being honest, and I haven't watched the Chargers much this season. I don't know their stats, but Mike Williams has been like very good. I know that Keenan Allen is kind of regarded as their number one wide receiver, but I know that Mike Williams has more receiving yards than Keenan Allen. I don't know about touchdowns, but I know that their team leader in receiving yards is Mike Williams. Let me see. Touchdowns for Mike Williams.
They might not even have 1,000-yard receiver this year or 1,000-yard rusher. What is this offense?
Which is surprising. Again, that's what's weird is it's surprising because of Justin Herbert. Like if you would have looked at Justin Herbert last season, insane. I still like Justin Herbert. I do think
your
that
guy
he's
Drew
very
Tranquil
good.
leads their team in tackles and has 5 sacks. He's having a really good year.
He does. I know he does, and I know, and I really like Drew too because he had he had that knee injury couple in college that really affected his draft stock, and I kind of wasn't sure how the NFL was going to pan out for him because of that. But he's really gotten healthy and played really well. So yeah, I don't know, Jake. I think it depends on what version of the Chargers we get on Sunday because they're very hot and cold. You don't know, but let's talk a little bit about this offense, Jake. Do you agree with me? If Justin Herbert's hot, that it might be.
I mean, yeah, I think that the Rams did something though last week that I noticed. They played more aggressive on their defensive game, and I think that's why they came away with 3 turnovers. I mean, I didn't see as much bend don't break. I think they went after Russell Wilson. They really played the game like they just didn't respect the Broncos, and they're the better team. if they go into every game like that, I know it's more just crapping on the Broncos, but no, seriously, I mean, that's how they played the game, and they should go into it against the Chargers that way, because this offense doesn't give you any reason to respect it aside from Herbert. I mean, they're a bunch of big names, but I mean, aside from like, you know, the fantasy aspect, Eckler's not having the best year of his career. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know he's found the end zone 16 times. I know he has over 1,400 total yards of offense. But he's averaging 6.5 yards per reception, and he's averaging 4.1 yards per carry. Josh Kelly is averaging 4.1 yards per carry. Like, they haven't been able to run the ball. But one thing, Alexis, is that they're one of the bottom teams in rushing DVOA. So you can run all over this team. So insert Cam Akers and Kyron Williams. I want to see a heavy dose of Cam Akers and Kyron Williams and just neutralize this defense. Tire them out, hit where it hurts, and then boom, there you go. Now you're running the ball. This team, I mean, they don't score points. Like all this talent, it's honestly one of the biggest mind-boggling things of the year is that the Chargers have all this talent and they average 22.1 points per game. Like, that's not great for what you have. They barely win games. I mean, when you look at their schedule, you know, they beat the Colts. Congrats. You beat the Colts and Nick Foles. He threw 3 interceptions. Did you win by 40? No, you won by 17. You barely beat the Titans. You beat by 6 points the Dolphins. You lost to the Raiders. You beat the Cardinals by 1 point. The Cardinals. You lost to the Chiefs. You lost to the 49ers. You beat the Falcons by 3. You lost by 14 to Seattle. You know, you beat Denver. You beat Denver at home. So Denver had already played at SoFi Stadium. And that first time they lost by a field goal. And the Rams just beat them 51-14. You barely beat the Browns in Cleveland. You beat the Texans by 10. Whoop-de-doo. You got blown out 38-10 to the Jaguars before they were even good. Do you see what, like, this team just doesn't, it just feels like the ultimate underachiever. And yet I still sit here and I still believe that Brandon Staley is doing a good job as a head coach. I think it falls on them scoring points, and I think that falls on their offensive coordinator. I think it's Lombardi. I just don't think they have the right thing there, because their offense, who's scared of that?
Well, they don't. Well, that's what doesn't make sense. You know, like we said, it doesn't make sense with the talent that they have on offense, and it's a shame because I really like Justin Herbert. I think he's though, or he's going to be in some trouble. Yeah, they need to get him some help. But yeah, so I mean, I stand by what I said. I just think it depends on the version of the Chargers that we get, because it doesn't make sense. You see 2 very different stories with them. Each game that they play, you could get one version or you could get another. And it's just, they're a very weird team. They're kind of hard to read, very inconsistent. But let's get into predictions, Jake. I know I usually go first with this, so I guess I'll go first. I really don't know. I'm going to say, I don't know if this is bold or not, but I'm going to say it's a 2-touchdown game for Tyler Higbee again. I think he needs this. I think that Baker is building a rapport with him that he built early on, kind of with like Jefferson and Skoranek, right? And maybe Tutu Atwell a little bit. I think it took a little long for him to get there with Tyler Higbee, but I think they've got a connection now. I think that Baker really seemed to trust him in the last game, and I think he's going to do the same thing this game. So I'm saying a 2-touchdown game from Tyler Higbee. It makes me nervous to say that, because anytime I say something like that, it doesn't happen. And then I'm going to say, let's see, what would be a good one? I'm going to say we're going to get a defensive touchdown. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be an interception off Justin Herbert or if it's going to be a fumble recovery. I don't know why you're laughing or smiling right now.
I mean, I didn't want to steal your thunder, but Justin Herbert has thrown 3 interceptions in the last 2 games, no touchdowns. And I was going to say that Jacoby Durant comes away with another pick 6.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know if it's going to be Jacoby Durant. I'll say my prediction is just it's just going to be a defensive touchdown. Whether that's an interception, whether it's a fumble recovery, whatever it is, I think that we're going to get a defensive score. I'm going to say for my defensive prediction, I guess this is another defensive prediction. I really like Michael Hoyt right now. I feel like he's hot, and I feel like I could just see him getting a multi-sack game. So I'll say that. Another multi-sack game from Michael Hoyt. Those are my 3 predictions. I don't think they're too crazy.
I think we're going to go with Cam Akers and Kyron Williams, both combining for 2 touchdowns and over 175 yards on the ground. I think it takes a little bit to get Sean McVay to realize hey, you should run the freaking ball. But when he realizes it, they're dangerous. Look at last year with Sony Michel. Look at, CJ Anderson when Todd Gurley was out. He has these moments in the season, always comes late in the season, almost comes a little too late. In this case, way too late. But then he's oh, I want to run the ball. And I feel like we're in that territory right now. So I think 175 total rushing yards for the running backs and 2 touchdowns between those two. I have Jacoby Durant coming down with pick 6. I think, Herbert hasn't thrown a touchdown since the 11th of December. It's crazy when you think about it. I mean, that's been a minute, two games in a row, no touchdowns. So, he hasn't thrown a touchdown in a little bit. Doesn't mean he won't throw one. But I do believe 3 picks in the last 2 games. I think he throws one. I think Durant takes it to the house. He is becoming a little bit of a rising star, I would say. I think he's got superstar written all over him. But I think, he comes away with that. And then lastly, I'm going to say the Rams last week, they hit 29 pressures. I think that was a season high by quite a bit. I'm going to say that they hit 30 in this game. So the over-under, I'm going to say they hit 30 pressures. This defense gets after Justin Herbert. They force a turnover here. They shut down the run. I'm telling you, Alexis, there's an added thing here. You win a game 51-14 to end the season. You bring that momentum into next year. They're already going to bring that momentum into next year. They're going to look at this game. This is exactly how to finish the season. But I think that they're going to only build off this the next 2 games, which I'm excited about. And it's why I'm glad that they had the 51-14 game against Denver now than instead of waiting until week 18 against Seattle. So I think this is going to be something that we see the reaping of the benefits here the next 2 games. I have the Rams, winning because of it. And I think they're going to finish the season strong. And, I think 30 pressures, 29 last week. I think they'll build off it. Starts with the defense, ends with the offense here. So that's what I have for my predictions.
Well, now we got to get into the score prediction, and I am just stumped because, like I said, I could see either team winning. I know a lot of people are always upset because they're you guys always predict that the Rams are going to win.
We did predict them to lose.
Jake, this might have to be one that
a few times.
I don't know. We have.
Well, I mean, sue us for thinking that the defending Super Bowl champions were going to go 5-10. I mean,
right. Sue us for being optimistic, guys. God. So, okay, because I'm very torn on this, I'm going to say that the Rams are going to win by a field goal. Maybe even in overtime. But I'm going to say the Rams win I think the Rams win 17-14. I don't think it's going to be very, you know what? Actually, I take that back. I think the Rams win 24-21. I don't know. I just have a really weird, I'm truly confused. I don't know what I'm thinking right now. It's tough because, like I said, I just don't know the version of the Chargers we're going to get.
That's what makes these so predictions interesting, though. When you think about it, it's I have to tune in to see what Alexis and Jake have because I don't know where this game is going to go.
I don't know. I feel like nobody knows what to expect.
This game is in 2023. So everything could be different. Yeah, this whole shift. This could be the Chargers year. This could be who knows. But what I will say is that going in this game, the over-under is 42, right? The Chargers are 6.5 point favorites. ESPN's Pick Center has the Chargers winning 23.3 to the Rams 18. That's their metric. I am going to take the Rams here 24-17. I think they're the better team. I know that sounds crazy to say it. I really believe that, because I think if the roles were reversed and the Rams were playing a third place schedule, we're probably looking at a team that's in the playoffs. And with the Chargers, they're probably not in the playoffs playing a first place schedule. So I do think they're the better team. Again, it feels really weird to say that considering how banged up they are. I think Justin Herbert is the main reason why this Chargers team even wins games. I mean, it's mind-boggling to me, but this team has been an underachiever. I think the defense is starting to come on a little bit with the pass rush, and getting Bosa back is going to help. But I just don't like where this team's at right now. And I know they made the playoffs, but again, I think that the Rams, they want it more, and I think they're going to get it on Sunday. I think they win 24-17, and I think they move on to 6-10 with a chance to go 7-10 and be a part of a tie for the second spot in the division with a win over Seattle. And obviously if Seattle loses this week.
Well, we both have the Rams getting 24 points. So we are even. That's on like that. Our comfort we both zone. Have the Rams winning.
It's like 24-21.
We'll see. Yeah. It's a safe option, with the way this season's just obviously
I'm not against the blowout win either.
We don't. It'd be
the more the merrier.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, LA Rams fans would love it, right? Battle of LA, guys. That would be major bragging rights to blow out the Chargers on Sunday. But guys, that's gonna do it for us. We will be back next week. We'll recap this game. We'll talk a little bit about we'll talk about the next game as well, but also we'll get into more off-season stuff, I think, probably starting next week. But until then, guys, as always, if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at the Alexis Kraft. You can follow Jake at JKBogen. And of course, you can follow us at Downtown Rams on all social media platforms. But until next time, guys, stay safe. Take care and go Rams.
If you haven't joined Prize Picks yet, you need to do it this season. Prize Picks allows you to pick up to 5 player props, and it gives you the option to 10x your winnings. Look at this right now. Tom Brady right now, for a limited time only, is a free square, because unless he gets hurt, he is going to be getting that 0.5. I'm going to select Tom Brady. I'm going to select Josh Allen going 275.5. Matthew Stafford going 265.5. We'll just throw Lamar Jackson in here, and let's just throw Justin Fields gets more than 191.5. So what you do here, you put more or less if you believe, Lamar Jackson gets less than that. And there you go, 10x your winnings if this pays out. You will actually get paid out even if you only hit 3 of them. You'll get 0.4 times your money back. You'll get 2 times. You'll double your money if you get at least 4 out of 5. Deposit today by using our promo code DTRAMS, and you'll get up to a $100 bonus match.